Hello, friends. Winter is nearly upon us. At least it is nearly upon me. And I tell you what, I love winter more than I love any other season. I love to be cold only because I love to be warm. I don't love to be freezing cold, but I do love to sit next to a fire or bundle up and get warm. I hate to be hot, but I do love to be warm. And when you live in the jungles of Southeast Asia, that's the number one thing you miss is the cool weather. You miss being warm. Over there, you're hot so much. You're hot all of the time. You just long to be warm. And I'm very happy that winter is now upon us, or upon me, as it were, so that I can be warm and bundle up. November is nearly upon us. And this time last year, I did 30 articles in 30 days for the month of November. I had a real great time doing it. I love to be busy. During that time, I was doing one article a day, every day. I was going to the gym twice a day, and I was going for an hour-long walk at night. So I was a real busy bee during that time, and that kind of work, that kind of busyness produces not happiness, but a kind of joy that you cannot get when you are lounging around and relaxing and having fun, as it were. In me, work is always what creates the joy of happiness and bliss. And friends, this November, I'm going to invite you to follow along on your own 30-day challenge with me. My challenge will be doing the 30 articles in 30 days. I will be doing a couple other things. And I'm going to invite you to follow along with your own 30-day challenge. I will announce what your 30-day challenge is next week. But do prepare for that, because for the 30 days of November, we are going to test our own wills and our own self-discipline and our own self-reliance and see how far we can get. Welcome to the Bold and Determined Podcast with your man Victor Pride. And right here on the Podcast for Winners, we're bringing you motivation and mindset for the killers and real dealers, the makers and the takers, the winners and the grinners, and goddamn, even the sinners too. Let's get started. Hello, my friendly friends. Welcome to the Bold and Determined Podcast with your man, Victor Pride. At the end of the last episode, Florio asked us to question, what is the key to happiness? And I would like to answer that question for you right now. I would like to suggest that the search for happiness is not the correct search. And what I mean by that is, if you are going to find happiness, you are also going to find sadness. You cannot be happy without feeling sad. You cannot have one extreme without the other. So there will never be a situation where you are always happy without being sad, because happiness relies on being emotional about the outcome of certain events. And if you are emotional about the outcome, then if it's a good outcome, you're going to be very happy for it. But if there's a bad outcome, you're going to be very sad about it. So when you are emotional about the outcome, you're never going to be only happy. You're going to have both extremes. And if you want to be flat, as it were, or maybe flat is not the best word, if you want to be steady, then you have to be emotionally detached from the outcome. And when you are detached from the outcome, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't affect your state. It doesn't affect your being. It doesn't affect your mood. And when you can remain detached from the outcome, your mood will stay steady. And when your mood is steady, that's when you enter a state we call bliss. And bliss is a better goal to set for yourself than happiness, because, like I said, happiness relies on being emotionally attached to the outcome. And that means you're going to be happy one day and sad the next day. It's going to be a never-ending cycle, up and down, up and down, up and down. But when you are detached, when you are not emotionally invested in the outcome, and you shouldn't be emotionally invested in any outcome, because it's going to be what it's going to be. It is what it is, and that's the way it's always going to be. So the trick, the key to bliss, not happiness, but the key to bliss, is remaining detached from all outcomes. You can give empathy and you can give sympathy without being emotionally invested. You can listen to people tell their story and get it off their chest, without being emotionally invested in the outcome. You can work towards a goal without being emotionally invested in the outcome. It's the journey that counts, not the destination. And that's so very true. If we allow the destination to be our reason for working, then we're going to be emotionally invested in the destination. Whereas if we just do the work because we like it, or live life because we like it, then we're living life just for the journey. And we remove our emotional reactions to the outcomes, and we just take things as they come. And when you take things as they come, and you don't allow them to affect you negatively or positively, you have found bliss. You have found the enlightenment that so many people are searching for. They're searching for all these things to make them happy. But at the same time, all these things they do that they think make them happy end up making them also sad. You think a vacation is going to make you happy until you get home and then you see your credit card bill and then you get sad. You think getting married is going to make you happy until the honeymoon is over and things change. So all of these things you rely on to make you happy also end up making you sad. But if you disconnect from the need to be happy, you also disconnect from the need to be sad. And at that time, you have found steadiness. You have found bliss. You have learned to stay centered. You have learned to stay in the center of your own circle. So if we want to find happiness, ironically and paradoxically, we have to let go of the need for happiness. And we simply have to stay centered. And that is all, friends. That is how you find, quote unquote, the key to happiness, is that you stop looking for it. And you start looking to stay steady and centered and balanced inside your own circle. That's it, friends. That's the key to happiness, is don't find it. Instead, search for bliss. Nikhil asks, when is Red PCT coming back? I'm waiting on Red Growth for it. Red PCT 2.0 is going to be in stock very, very soon. We are just finalizing the last stages of it before we can get it on the market for you. And we're also we're moving warehouses, so we're having a little delays right there moving our warehouse, but we'll be available very soon. And you can bet that when it is available, I will let all of the listeners of the show know that Red PCT 2.0 is back. I'll give you all the information about the ingredients, and I will invite you all to try it. Michael asks, I'm 206 pounds, 30% body fat. Should I use Red Growth while I lose weight? If you want to lose fat faster, you can use Red Growth. It's not necessary for you because you're at such a high body fat percentage. You're going to lose fat if you diet no matter what. If you would like to recomp, rather than just lose weight, but also recomp and turn some of that fat into muscle, then Red Growth would be a very good choice because you'll end your weight cut with more steady muscle, and your body's going to be harder than if you just lost weight without it. So the reason we use these things is because we want to have hard muscles rather than becoming, say, skinny fat. So it's very good if you want to recomp your body. And instead of just losing weight, you want to actually get a hard body rather than just a light or soft body. So it's very good for losing weight. Money Study asks, hi, Victor. When you came back to America, did you notice an absence of normal people? 10 years ago, it felt like a different universe compared to now. The lunatics, the freaks, and the weirdos have taken over. Friend, you've said that correctly. Even just 8 or 6 years ago, it was very, very different than it is now. When I go out, I have to wonder what on earth these people are thinking. And then that leads you to the conclusion that they're not actually thinking. They are acting on what they've been taught. And what I mean by that is what has changed in the past 10 or 6 or 8 years is the smartphone has become so popular. 10 years ago, people didn't have smartphones like they have them now. Even 6 years ago, the smartphone was not nearly as popular as it is now. And with the smartphone, people have become so very addicted to it that their virtual reality has become their new reality. So that is why we're seeing the lunatics, the freaks, and the weirdos, because these people have taken their virtual reality that they've been living in for the past 4 or 5 years, and they're bringing that to the real world. And I'll try and give you some examples of that. We know that there are only two genders in the world. There's male and female. There are two sexes, and that's all there is. In all of nature, there is this polarity of male and female. In people, there's male and female, animals, male and female, in trees and insects, in flowers. It's all male and female. And that's all there is. There's no third, fourth, sixth, eight, 10 genders. But these people in the virtual world, in the virtual reality of the internet, say that there's more than two genders. Of course, we know that's not true. Any reasonable person just knows that inherently. And before the advent of this virtual reality that we all live in, nobody in their right mind would say that there were more than two sexes. There's only male and female. Today, people are not living in the real world. They're living in the virtual reality world, and they're bringing their reality, their virtual reality to the real world and saying, no, there's more than two genders. They're bringing their craziness from the virtual reality into the real world. I go to a coffee shop every day that is right next door to a local community college, and I hear what these people say every day. I was at the coffee shop one day, and I heard one woman speaking to another woman, and she was saying something along the lines of, oh, in all cultures of the world, they've always had more than two genders. It's always been a thing. Yeah, in so many cultures around the world, there's always been multiple genders and many, many genders. And this woman was saying this to the other woman, how there have been so many different cultures that had so many different genders. And this is what she said at the end. Okay, nice to meet you. Bye. So this crazy lady was telling this woman she had just met about how all of these different cultures of the world had more than two genders, which of course isn't true. There are no natural societies that believed in more than two genders. But this woman is so alienated from reality, she's so engrossed in her virtual world that she just talks to a stranger and tells a stranger about how there are more than two genders. And this other woman, the woman she was talking to, never said a word back to her. She was completely quiet through the entire conversation. And this woman was telling her about how there are multiple genders. Then she said, nice to meet you, bye. And during this whole time, this other woman never said a word. This other woman was an Indian woman from India. So, of course, she is not so desperately crazy to believe that there are multiple genders. Even more than the virtual reality making our people insane, our school system is making people insane. You now have children, 5-year-old children, saying that you have 5-year-old boys saying that they're girls now. This is not a natural thing. This doesn't happen in nature. Our children's minds are being manipulated in such a way that they are now coming out as transgender when they're 5 or 6 years old. This is utter insanity, and it doesn't happen naturally. So there must be something going on that is causing it. And if you take a look at your children's school book, if you were able to go to your children's school for a day and see what their teachers are teaching them, you would understand right away that what's happening to our people is deliberate. It's not an accident. It's something that is carefully planned because it's what's going on in our schools. If you were to go to a university or a community college today, you would see what they're teaching our people is insanity. So our schools are teaching our people to be insane, and it's reinforced because they live in a virtual reality, and people today simply don't speak to each other very much. They speak to each other via their device, their phone. And this causes, of course, craziness. And when you mix this life in a virtual reality that is enhanced by their learning, their education system, you have a recipe for disaster. And that's what's happening in our world. I do hate to be negative, but I have to call things like I see them. Our society is on track for disaster, and we have to do something about this because we can't live in a crazy world much longer. Levi asks, I know conspiracies and theories are time wasting, but what can we do about the general Western trend, i.e. leftism? Should we be learning to hunt, survive, possibly prepping supplies and canned goods? Should we accept that globalism is inevitable? Okay, first of all, we have to say that the general Western trend of leftism is not a conspiracy theory because we can see it happening all around us. A conspiracy theory would be that the moon is made of cheese, or that it's hollow, or that the earth is flat and that it's surrounded by an ice wall, or that the leaders of the world are shape-shifting reptilians. Those are conspiracy theories because they cannot be proven. What we can verify with our own eyes and with our own research is that there is an obvious general trend of leftism that is, frankly, it's ruining our countries. That's what's going on in the West. Our countries are being invaded by leftism. We have to address this because things are getting worse in our countries. They're not getting better. If we want things to get better, we must address this. And they want us to think that one person can do nothing, that your voice doesn't matter, that you can't do anything. They want you to think that because it isn't true. The reality is that our world is shaped by very few strong-willed people. The reality is that there are just a few ultra-rich people who are shaping our world. They paid the schools via their foundations. They paid the schools to teach what they want. So if you can bribe people, you can get them to do anything you want. So the simple reality is that most people are still sane, or they could be sane, but we are being taught, or we are being led by very, very few people. So if we are being led down one path by very few people, then a very strong-willed person can take our destiny back and lead us down another path. So we do have to address these things. We do have to educate our people about what's happening, because we cannot let this continue, because we're not going to have countries anymore. We've all heard about the need for the one world government, or the plans for the one world government, and that is what's happening. They want all people, they want to kill the middle class, and they want all people basically to share. And they want to extract and concentrate the wealth from all people and keep it in their hands. It seems ironic that the millionaires believe in socialism and leftism until you realize that they want to have you do it and not them. They're going to keep their wealth and take yours and distribute it among the peons, among the lower classes. So the plan is always for you, never for them. So it seems counterintuitive that millionaires are crazy liberals and crazy communists and socialists until you realize it's a plan to extract the wealth. And that's what's going on as they continue multiculturalism and the crazy utopia that they're trying to bring is simply extracting our wealth and our resources. If you've noticed that people in the United States, which used to be a wealthy country, the people used to be wealthy, you notice that the United States people are becoming poor, whereas one person in the family could work in the past and you can have a house and a car. Now two people work and everybody's in debt, and people live hand to mouth. They live paycheck to paycheck. So there's very clearly a problem happening with our people. It's very obvious, and we cannot ignore it anymore. We cannot call it conspiracy theory when it is a simple reality that is taking our freedoms that our forefathers who signed the Declaration of Independence gave us. See, America used to be such a wonderful, great country because we did not allow the central banks in to control us. That changed in the early 1900s, and since then we've been on a decline. They want you to believe that America was never a great country and that it was always racist and a bad country full of bad people, but that's not true. We were at one time the best country in the world, precisely because we understood what happened if we allowed the central banks and the ultra wealthy to control everything we did. And that's why we had the Declaration of Independence, which should have protected us from that. Of course, these people have so much money. They bribed our own politicians. They bribed people in key places of power, and things change and things decline day by day, year by year. So we have to address this. We have to know what's going on so we can reverse the trend. Joseph asks, what are your views on biohacking? Okay, biohacking is the process of making changes to your lifestyle in order to hack your body's biology and feel your best. I think it's a real fun word to say making yourself better. And biohacking could be as easy as getting better sleep, eating better food, and optimizing your workouts. If you do those three simple things, you're going to feel better than 99% of the population feels. And of course, you could get into, after you optimize those things, you can get into the proper supplementation or taking the proper drugs to, say, counteract the effects of the petrochemicals in our environment and the effect that they have on our body. A lot of men have low testosterone, even though they do the right things, because our food comes to us in plastic. Our deodorant is messing up our systems, our shampoo. So all of these things are giving us bad effects, and we do have to take a proactive approach to have the best, to feel the best we can, and to be as healthy as we can. So my views on biohacking are, it's absolutely necessary in this world. We cannot be passive about our own health, our own fitness, and our own happiness. We have to take a proactive role in our own health, because if we leave it to the hands of other people, we will look like other people. And if you want to see what other people look like, just go outside and look at them. Those are the people who outsource their health to other people. They outsource their well-being to other people. And look at what happens to them. John Skywalker asks, a question I've had of late is regarding CBD oil, also known as cannabinoid oil. What are your thoughts on this supplement/medicine? Is it all hyped up, or is it just like every other drug we've discussed on the B&D podcast? You know, I've never used CBD oil. Your comment inspired me to actually buy a bottle. So I do have a bottle here sitting on my desk. I am going to use it and see what happens. I'm particularly interested in the sleep applications, whether or not it helps you fall asleep at night. I'm very interested in that. A couple things we know about CBD oil is that A, it's not psychoactive, so it doesn't get you high. That's a very important thing to know. It's not a drug in the way that it gets you high, in the way that smoking reefer does. So it's not a drug. It's not psychoactive. We know that it has applications for people with Parkinson's and tremors and these kind of things. So we know it works for those people. But does it really have applications for, say, regular people who just want to sleep better or perhaps reduce some anxiety? So I'm going to give this a shot. I'm very, 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 very interested in seeing if it helps me sleep. So I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to take it for the month of November, and I'll give you my final analysis after I use it. And if it's real good, I think we'll probably incorporate it into the Red Supplements brand. Probably bring it to you, of course, if it's good. If it's not good, I'll go ahead and tell you it's shit. And that's that. Bill asks, you mentioned the 7 deadly sins. Pride is one of them. What is your view on this, as having pride and ego seems to be a positive thing, as often mentioned in Bold and Determined? Other than that, what is your views on each of the 7 deadly sins? Okay. The 7 deadly sins are lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. And the opposite of those sins are the 7 Christian virtues, which are chastity, temperance, charity/generosity, diligence, patience, gratitude, and humility. And the truth is that the best way to be lies somewhere in the middle. Now, these 7 so-called deadly sins, did you ever notice that all of the rich billionaire fat cats in the world follow the 7 deadly sins as if they were gospel? They have lust, they're gluttonous, they're greedy, they're wrathful, they're envious, and they're prideful. So it's very, very strange that these so-called deadly sins create so much wealth in our world. Now, supposedly, you can not follow these sins and you get to be poor in this life, but rich in the next life. But it seems very strange that the people at the top of the pyramid, the people at the top of the power structure, tell us don't do this, and it keeps us poor, and they do it, and they're wealthy. So that's very, very interesting to look at. It does seem like the rules we were given were told to us by people who don't follow those rules, probably because they don't want competition. I want to read you a quote now from a spiritual guru from the 80s called Osho. This is what he said. For thousands of years, the priesthood has been confronting a simple problem which they cannot solve. They see criminals, sinners becoming successful, rich. They see simple people, innocent people being crushed, exploited, oppressed, and still religion goes on saying, be simple, be innocent. Then the question arises, if innocence and simplicity are never rewarded, only corruption, cruelty, violence are rewarded, then why be simple? It's a very interesting question to ponder. And again, if you look at the people in power, they simply do not follow the 7 Christian virtues. They live more along the lines as sins as benefits. And in fact, I propose that if you want to be successful in this world, I recommend you change your views on what the 7 deadly sins are. If you want to be successful in the business world and make your mark, then maybe you should look at the following 7 sins as real sins. And those are laziness, dishonesty, timidity, ignorance, procrastination, entitlement, and arrogance. I propose those to you as the 7 deadly sins of business, and I will go ahead and write an article expanding upon those new 7 deadly sins of business, and you can look forward to that article in the month of November when I do 30 articles in 30 days. Shez asks, "Hey Vic, who do you think are the greatest poets of our time and why?" Well, if you ask me honestly, I have to answer you honestly, and that honest answer is, can you find a better piece of poetry than Bold and Determined? If you can, please show it to me, because I've never seen it. I don't see a lot of great poets in our time. I would consider David Mamet to be a great poet of our time. David Mamet is the writer of Glengarry Glen Ross. He wrote House of Games. He wrote The Edge. He's a movie writer and a playwright, but his words are more like poetry than they are your standard scripts. So David Mamet, I would absolutely consider one of the greatest poets of our time. And of course, if you can find better poetry than what you can find on Bold and Determined, please show it to me. Bob asks, "What's your opinion on internet and smartphone addiction? I find that I am becoming more addicted to information, YouTube videos, and constant reading and scrolling. I feel as if this is frying my brain in dopamine. I cannot be alone and feel content and happy just being in nature." Well, friend, you're absolutely positively correct. The smartphone addiction in particular has skyrocketed in the past 6 or 8 years. Just absolutely skyrocketed. And it seems like all of us are affected by it. I'm affected by it. I have a hard time getting to bed at night because I want to keep scrolling on the YouTube or the whatever. Because like you said, you do get a constant hit of dopamine. You go out searching for something, and on the internet, you always find it, and you keep finding it, you keep finding it. So the trick is to exercise your self-discipline and stop looking at it. It's very difficult to do because, again, you get rewarded every 5 seconds or every 10 seconds. You find something new. Me, I've made it a new ritual that I turn off every electronic at 9:30 p.m. No matter what, I turn it off. I could be in the middle of the greatest search in history. I'm going to turn it off at 9:30 because for number one, these electronic devices are killing our sleep, and sleep is so absolutely important to our well-being that we cannot allow these devices to keep us up at night. And the blue light that is radiating from these devices is very bad for our sleep. It makes us stay awake longer, and that is why people are so addicted to coffee these days, because everybody is so tired. But it's very, very important to get adequate and proper sleep. And we cannot get adequate sleep when we have these screens right in front of our eyes, shining blue lights in our eyes. So what I do, I shut it off at 9:30 p.m. no matter what. And when it gets dark outside, I turn on the Flux app on my computer so that that blue light is gone and I'm just looking at black and red. So I recommend absolutely you download the Flux app, put it on your phone, put it on your computer. I recommend you change your phone settings at night so that the colors are inverted. You don't have that nasty glare in your eyes because it's very, very bad for you. Speaking more on the addiction to the virtual reality, I see people in America now that these people just don't live in reality anymore. They're always on their phone. I go out for walks at night and I have to be very, very careful around cars because everybody is on their phone. Just all the time, even when they're driving the cars. The addiction is so overwhelming, they can't drive a block without looking down at their phone. So the best thing you could ever do in this life would be to throw your phone in the river and never look back. Now, the problem with that is they've made us so addicted to what the phone can provide that it's very difficult to do that. And I myself love to listen to podcasts in the car when I'm driving. Of course, having a map is very, very beneficial because they don't sell physical maps anymore. So if you want to know how to get from A to B, you've got to look at the map on your phone to find out how to get there. So I personally like the map app. I like the podcast app. And of course, if you've got friends around the world in different countries that you can't just call up on the telephone, it's great to have these texting apps or these messaging apps. So they've got us completely addicted to these things. And of course, they engineer and manufacture them so that they're more addicted and more addictive and more addictive and more addictive. So we keep using them. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to humanity with this unbelievable addiction. And it's only come about really in the past 6 years or so. Because 6 years ago in America, people were not addicted to their smartphones like they are today. The amount of addiction we have today is simply unbelievable and unparalleled at any other time in the history of humanity. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And I welcome any tips or suggestions from the listeners of the B&D podcast. What do you do to combat your internet and smartphone addiction? Miko asks, do you believe a person's intelligence can be improved the same way that their financial situation can? If someone wanted to become the richest and cleverest person in the whole world, is that a reasonable ambition? Okay, there are two questions here to unpack. The first question is, can someone's personal intelligence be improved the same way their financial situation can? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can make yourself smarter by brain training. You can make yourself smarter by reading, learning, playing games such as chess. And in fact, one of the ways you can make yourself a lot smarter is by making money. Because making money doesn't happen by accident. It is always a strategic plan. And you learn when you make money that you have to work for what you earn. You're never given a dime in this world. You realize when you make money, you start to understand the law of cause and effect. That if you work real hard at this specific goal, you are rewarded with money. And that makes you smarter than a lot of people, because poor people don't understand the law of cause and effect. They think that if you made money, your business just got lucky. They think if you put in 16 hours a day building your business, you just got lucky. When the reality is, it takes a lot of hard work to make money. And putting yourself through this, learning self-reliance, will make you smarter in this world. And that's why when people start to make money, say people who come from the ghetto, they start to make money, they start to become so much smarter than their family, and they start to outgrow their family because the family is not very smart. They're still thinking that it's luck and not anything to do with actual work. So working real hard to make money will make you smarter. He goes on to ask, if someone wanted to become the richest and cleverest person in the whole world, is that a reasonable ambition? No, it isn't. If you want to be the cleverest person in the world, you're going to have to be born with the biggest brain in the world. Just like you can work out as hard as you possibly can, but if you have average or poor genetics, you're never going to look better than somebody who was born with great genetics. And it's as simple as that. Some people can barely work out and eat anything they want and always be lean and ripped and flexible and fast no matter what they do. Other people can work as hard as they possibly can and never even get a fraction of the benefits that somebody with a natural born great physique has. So somebody who's not born with the biggest brain in the world, somebody who's born with an average sized brain or smaller brain, no matter what they do in the world, they're never going to be the cleverest person in the world. The cleverest person in the world has the biggest brain in the world. Simple as that. Graham asks, how to stop protein farts. I eat low processed foods only, but I seem to be ripping ass in the gym. Okay, the problem with your protein farts is that you're not digesting them. You know that when you're farting excessively, you're not digesting the food you're eating. So that should give you a clue that the foods you're eating are not digestible in the state that you're eating them. So many people want to tell you that vegetables are so healthy for you, but then these same people are farting and shitting all the time because they can't digest these foods. And in the case of your protein farts, you're probably taking protein powder, which is very low in fat. And the reality is you must have fat to be able to digest protein. So if you're not taking fat with your protein powder, you're not digesting them, and you're just farting it out and getting no benefit and probably making yourself sicker. So if you're taking protein powder, you must take it with some fat. You can melt up some butter and put it in your protein powder. You can put egg yolks in your protein powder. If you want to go ahead and add olive oil or coconut oil, you can put it in your protein powder. But you must have some fat in your protein powder to be able to digest it. If you're not digesting it, you're going to know, because you're going to be all the time in the gym. And people are going to want to run away from you because you're stinky. So we have to listen. We have to be aware of what's going on with our body. If you're farting, it means you are not digesting the food you are eating. Farting is not a natural, healthy thing to do. And we simply don't understand that today. But if you eat like I eat, you never fart. And then you start to put two and two together and think, oh, okay, so those other foods are not good for me. Because it's such a disgusting thing when another person farts. We're all sickened by it for a reason. It's not natural. So pay attention to your body and eat your fat. You must eat your fat to be able to digest food. It's very important to eat the fat. Andrew L. asks, do you think it's okay to start a business on a platform such as Etsy, Amazon, while it does violate sense from the millionaire fast lane? As a business starting out, you get more sales and traffic from the get-go. Yeah, I'm of two minds about starting your business on a platform such as this. Number one, you will have a customer base ready and willing to give you money. On the other hand, your business can be taken away from you at any time. If you start an Amazon business and you could put 2 years into growing your Amazon business, and it could be taken away from you in the snap of a finger. And Amazon doesn't even have to give you a reason. They can just take your business away. And then 2 years of your work is simply down the drain. And at the end of those 2 years, say your business is taken away, you will not have a customer email base to continue your business, so you'll be forced to start all over again. In my opinion, it's much better to be on the safe side and build your own business from the ground up so that you have an actual customer base, so that nothing can happen to your business. Because when you start a business on somebody else's platform, they hold the key to your business. You must do what they say. If they change their rules, you are going to have to follow their new rules, whether you agree with them or not. It's a very difficult thing to think about, because if you build your own business, it's going to take longer to build, but it has more long-term stability. If you start a business on Amazon, it's going to take less time to build, but the future is never certain. So it is always better to make sure you have a certain future. And if you build your own business, your future can be certain. Bogdan asks, hi, Victor. I want to start my blog under my own name and start creating content. My only issue is that I have several divergent topics I want to write about, everything ranging from self-development to drawing and creativity. I am afraid that the site will be too scattering in content, leaving the audience with mixed signal or message. What are your thoughts on this? My thoughts are, stop being a coward, stop being afraid, and simply do it. What you are doing is looking for excuses to not start. What you must do is stop looking for excuses, and you must start. It is as simple as that. If the blog is under your own name, how can the topics be too divergent when they are topics from your brain? You are looking for excuses to not start. Stop looking for excuses and just start. Ian asks, what are your thoughts on showers and baths? When taking a shower, should you only use cold water all year? Is lounging in the bath like Winston Churchill all right for one's mental well-being and physical? Or do these hurt one physically or not? I am starting to become of the mind that showers and baths should be as short as possible. And personally, I couldn't imagine ever sitting in a bathtub. I couldn't imagine how anybody could call themselves a man and sit in a bathtub with candles and R&B music playing in the background. It just sounds so silly to me. So there's no reason to take a bath. Regarding showers, if they should be cold all year, no, take cold showers in the winter, take cold showers in the summer, hot showers in the winter. And take them as short as possible, because your body, your skin, is an organ that absorbs everything that it comes into contact with. And our water, especially in America, is polluted with fluoride and other chemicals. So every time we take a nice hot shower, we're absorbing these chemicals into our skin and into our body. And this is doing damage to us without us really understanding that. in the past, people were actually scared of taking baths and showers because they didn't want too much water in their body. They thought that receiving too much water in their body led to sickness. And people in Thailand and Vietnam and these places still don't like to take a lot of showers because they're afraid of getting too much water in their body and getting themselves sick. And ironically, these people never stink. If you go to Southeast Asia, Asian people don't stink. They just don't. And I found that actually stink only comes from the deodorant. So you could take 10 showers a week or 1 shower a week. The only way you're going to stink is if you don't use deodorant. So that's the number one way to reduce the stink is deodorant. That's what kills the odor, the body odor. In my experience, I can take 10 showers a week, and if I don't use deodorant, my armpits still stink. I could take 1 shower a week, but if I use deodorant, then I don't stink. So it's not a matter of showering to reduce stink. It's a matter of deodorant. And when you realize that, you start to, I personally take less showers because I don't want the chemicals in the water entering my body. And I don't want the water, I don't want excess water in the skin. We've got to think like people of the past. We think we're so smart today. We think we know everything today. But the people of the past were actually smarter than we are today because they didn't live in their virtual reality. They lived in the real reality, and they put the pieces together from what happened to them in the real world. And when they took too many showers or baths, they got sick. So that's that. Alec asks, do you season your meat with anything when you sear it? Yeah, I cook my meat in butter, and I add salt and pepper, and then I sear both sides for 10, 20, 30, 40 seconds, maybe a minute, and then I eat it blue rare. Blue rare means that it's basically raw on the inside and seared on the outside. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the good taste of the cooked meat, and you get all the health benefits of the nearly raw meat from the inside. So that's butter, salt, and pepper. That's all you need. Prince Angel asks, do you recommend buying online courses, or is there a better way to learn and gain a skill? The only way you're ever going to learn or gain a skill is by learning from somebody who already knows. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. You can buy an online course, you can take a course in the real world, or you can read book after book after book. But you're not going to be able to learn something without learning from somebody who knows. And so many people want to learn for free that so many people are so entitled that they think all pieces of knowledge should be free. Well, the free knowledge is going to help you, but the best knowledge is always for sale because nobody's going to give you the best knowledge for free. That's why universities exist and schooling exists and books exist, because people do want to teach you, but they want to be paid for their time, because if somebody knows something, it took them a long time to learn it. So nobody's wants to share with you for free. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So if you want to learn something, should you buy online courses or books or take classes? Absolutely. What's your advice on doing freelancing work on Upwork for a young man? Would you personally do it or not? Well, those are two different questions. Is it okay for a young man to do? Absolutely, because young men usually are going to have a harder time building their own self-sustaining business, and they're going to need to make money in the meantime. So is freelancing okay for a young man? Absolutely. Would I do it? Absolutely not. Why would I waste my time doing work for other people when I could work for myself? You'll start to realize this as you get older. You can spend this exact same amount of time working, but the benefits are completely opposite. If you spend the time working for somebody else, they get the benefits. If you spend the time working for yourself, you get the benefits. And you always have to be thinking of the future. You always have to be thinking of the future. If I'm doing work for somebody else, where is my future? If I'm doing work for myself, there's my future. Marquise asks, what's your opinion on colloidal silver or turpentine as a health alternative? Big Pharma says it's bad, but the little guy says it's good. Well, I don't have any opinions on colloidal silver or turpentine as a health alternative. What I do have as a health alternative, I have a very radical health alternative that you might want to try, and that is getting proper sleep, getting proper food, getting proper exercise. So many people want to neglect the big three and then take some kind of health supplement and think it's going to be a magic pill that's going to solve all the problems, but it's not. Nothing's going to solve your problems if you're not getting proper sleep, proper exercise, or eating the proper food. That's your health alternative, real health. And then after you do these things, if you still have problems after eating the right food, sleeping the right amount, getting the right exercise. Then you look at these alternatives, but you must build your base first. You must have good sleep. You must have good exercise. You must have good food. Simple as that. Michael asks, what is your favorite memory as a child? I feel that during our childhoods, our third eyes were open more and we were much more in the present moment. I'm doing my best to get back to that state and curious on your thoughts on it. Well, Jesus himself said that if you wish to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must become like a little child. So, our life seems to be a journey from being a little child to growing into adulthood, and then as we grow elderly, we become more like children again. So it's a very, very interesting concept to look into. I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than what Jesus said. If you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must become like a little child. Bart asks, after I read your post about never masturbating again and why you should quit viewing porn, I'm motivated to stop. But after a week, the thoughts hit me like a flood. My question is, it sounds like you've really kicked the habit for good. But for those of us who still struggle with the thoughts and temptations of the mind, what do you do when those thoughts start filling your head? What is the remedy for this? Okay, the remedy is you must go and immediately do something else when these thoughts enter your head. If these thoughts enter your head, you must immediately do 100 push-ups. You must immediately go for a jog or a walk. You must immediately go for a ride in the car. You must immediately do something else. Immediately. That is the simple and most effective way that you kick the urge for good. You simply do something else immediately. Immediately. When these thoughts enter your mind, start your push-ups. Go for a jog. Do any other thing in the world, but start it immediately. Tehan asks, when do you read? Do you read in the morning or do you read before bedtime? Do you set a certain amount of time a day to read? Okay, I never read in the morning because I always feel awesome in the morning. I feel great in the morning and I don't want to waste that great time of day reading. So in the morning, I always get up and I stretch. I do a little exercise in the morning and then I go directly to work. Because for me, the morning is the clearest time of day when I have the most clarity and I want to use that to do my creative work. I read. My reading is my relaxation time. So in the afternoon is when I read. After I've done a good solid 3 or 4 hours of work, after I've had my lunch, then I'll kind of lay down or sit down and start to read something. So I tend to read pretty much every afternoon. If the book is really good, I'll continue it later that night. But for me personally, I always read in the afternoon because for me, afternoon is the slowest time of day. It's the time of day I enjoy the least and when I have the least energy. So I'll go ahead and I'll read in the afternoon. But I never want to waste the great time of day, which is the morning, simply reading a book. So for me, it's basically always the afternoon when I read. And again, if a book is really, really good, I'll just continue reading it all night. But usually I will read in the afternoon and then I'll get my second wind for night and I'll do some night work. And then I might read a little bit before bed and I might not. Anthony asks, in the Karma episode, you mentioned something along the lines of Western women are only good for 2 things, pumping and dumping. I would like to hear more into the why you think they're only good for sex and how you deal with them because because a lot of us are struggling with our addiction to them. I don't understand that addiction part. Females are our counterparts. So saying it's addiction is insincere. It's incorrect. The male and the female are the yin and the yang. So you cannot be addicted to your other half. That's incorrect. Regarding they're only good for pumping and dumping, that's simply because they are the most entitled females in the history of the world. We've talked about this before, but our school system specifically breeds a super high self-esteem, which is way too high, which breeds an entitlement that they think everything should be given to them simply because they're alive. So they don't have any self-reliance. And that's very important to have in a partner is self-reliance, because if somebody's entitled, then they feel perfectly fine leaving and taking everything from you if you're married because they feel entitled to it. So it's very dangerous to get involved with somebody who's too entitled because entitlement is a form of narcissism. And if they are narcissistic and entitled, they're very happy to leave and take everything from you if you're married. So you have to think very, very carefully about getting married in the United States because they have the power and the mindset to take everything from you and simply not care about it. So that's why they're only good for pumping and dumping, because they are far too entitled to make good long-term partners. Of course, there are snowflakes here and there. Of course, you could find an exception. But the rule is they are the most entitled creatures on the face of the earth. And that's why we have to be very careful about how far we take things. Colton asks, I'm still living at home with my parents, though, and it's time to get out of here ASAP and be more independent. What do you recommend to someone in my position? Well, I recommend you get out and be more independent if that's what you want. It's a very simple thing. Whatever you want, go and do it. Whatever you don't want, don't go and do it. Where there is a will, there are 10,000 ways. But if there is no will, there is no way. So if you want to do it, go do it. There are any million ways you can afford to get out and be independent. And the best thing you can do is simply to just go and do it because it's going to teach you the most important skill in the world, which is self-reliance. When you have self-reliance, you never have to be afraid of being independent, because you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you could make things happen for yourself no matter what the situation is. So it's very important to just get out and do it. And that's one reason why I feel it's so important to become an entrepreneur, because you have complete self-reliance and self-dependence. You never depend on anybody or anything for a paycheck. You have to make it happen for yourself. And when you are able to make these things happen for yourself, you have the most important skill in the world, self-reliance. Luke asks, Vic, you said that circumcision can cause psychological damage and that the person doesn't remember. Do you think this is the reason so many men struggle with premature ejaculation, depression, and other so-called mental problems? No, I don't. I think the reason men struggle with premature ejaculation is pornography and masturbation. Plain and simple. That's the number one reason you are premature ejaculating, pornography and masturbation. Depression is a bunch of different causes. Pornography can be one. But the modern world has a million other ways that cause depression. And it goes back to the 3 simple things you must do. Get your proper sleep, get your proper food, and get your proper exercise. If you've got your base of sleep, exercise, and food, depression is easy to kill. Regarding other mental problems, these mostly come from lack of sleep, lack of exercise, lack of food. Comes from pornography addiction, internet addiction, virtual reality addiction, and it comes from the chemicals that are messing up our hormones. So certain things we can do to fix it and certain things we cannot do. What we have to do is do our best. So no pornography, no masturbation, eat the right food, get the right sleep, get the right exercise. Wolf asks, Hey Vic, what advice can you give a man who has a great vision for the future and a clear picture about himself in a few years, but he doesn't know which path I should follow? Well, first of all, I would get your story straight, because you said you had a great vision and a clear picture, but you don't know which path you should follow. That's what we call cognitive dissonance. The 2 things do not add up. If you have a great vision and a clear picture, you will know exactly which path to take. But if you don't know which path to take, that means you do not have a great vision and a clear picture. So the first thing you have to do is be honest with yourself. You have to stop lying to yourself, because when you're lying to yourself, it's giving you cognitive dissonance. If you have a great vision and a clear picture, then you would simply walk towards that path. You could take 10,000 ways to that path, but they're all going to get you to the exact same place. If you know where you're headed, you can get there taking any route. If you don't know where you're headed, any path will not take you there. So you have to know, not pretend to know, but actually know and actually have a clear picture of what you want to be in a few years. And for young men, you might not have this, and there's no problem with that. It's perfectly fine to not know what you want to do as a young man. As you move forward in this life, you will start to learn and to understand and become more knowledgeable about these things, and it will come to you in time. Right now, simply be patient and let the path present itself when it does. JP asks, how would you deal with controlling parents? How would you deal with them if they are controlling, like watching what you do and how you spend? And it seems like it will take a while before you can be independent to them, specifically financially. Endure. That's your word of the day, is endure. If you cannot be financially independent to them and they are controlling, it's for a very good reason. They are in control and you are not in control. If you are not self-dependent, you must become self-dependent. Otherwise, you will always be controlled by others. So what can you do? Become independent. Control yourself. And until you do that, you have to live with your parents and you have to live by their rules because they are in control, not you. So you have to understand they're controlling you because they are in control of you. It's only going to change when you become in control of yourself. Gerasimos asks, I went out with a girl I met on a bus and had plenty of fun talking with her. The problem is I didn't manage to get flirty with her. I pussied out. How do I not pussy out on the next date? Well, that's very simple. Don't be a pussy on the next date. Brad asks, do you have a particular place or website that you buy raw milk from? It is illegal in my state for some reason. I buy my raw goat milk directly from a farm. I drive an hour there, an hour back to get my raw milk. I've never bought it online. I don't believe that it is legal to sell it online, but you can look at realmilk.com and perhaps you can drive to another state to find some raw milk. EA asks, what is the best way on how to be consistent? Well, the best way to be consistent is to set a time and a date for what you want to do and always do it on that time and date. So for example, if I want to be consistent with a podcast, I set a date of every Thursday to release a podcast, and then I have to follow that date. That's the way you be consistent. You set a date specifically beforehand and you follow that date no matter what. So every Thursday there's going to be a B&D podcast no matter what. If I have to record it in the subway or an airport or whatever, I'm going to bring you a podcast every Thursday because I said I would, and that's how you be consistent. Steven asks, what is your view on male pattern baldness? Do you think it's hereditary or simply genetics? Well, hereditary and genetics are the exact same thing. So yeah, I do think that they are hereditary or simply genetics. There are certain things that can increase the rate at which your hair falls out, chemicals, for example. But other people can be bathed in the same chemicals and never lose their hair. So it is genetics and hereditary. If I was going to go bald, I would simply shave it off and let it be. I wouldn't worry about it. I would just embrace it, and that's that. Martin asks, I listened to you talk about giving up the coffee to remove the anger and anxiety in my life. I immediately find that this works. However, I'm having a difficult time avoiding it on a daily basis. Any tips I can do to make it a permanent change? Yeah, the longer you do it, the more it's simply going to be a habit and routine. It's going to be hard now because you're so used to drinking coffee every day, perhaps even multiple times a day, that you're going to see it everywhere. But the longer you go, the longer you exercise self-discipline and say no, the more it's going to be just some background thing that you don't even see anymore. If all you drink is water, you're not going to notice that you see a Coca-Cola everywhere. Now, you might work in an office where everybody drinks Coca-Cola left and right, but you might just drink water. So it makes zero difference that people are drinking Coca-Cola even if they offer you one because you don't drink it yourself. The same thing is going to happen with coffee in time. Exercise your self-discipline and just say, no, I don't drink coffee. The more you say it, the more it's going to become true. And you're going to notice that you have no anger, no anxiety in your life because it was the coffee that was doing it to you in the first place. Bill asks, how can somebody save $100,000? Okay, the best way you can save $100,000 is to make $1 million and save 10% of your earnings. That is the teaching from the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Always save 10% of your earnings. And even if you make $100,000 a year, you can save $10,000 a year, and in 10 years, you're going to have $100,000. So save 10% of your money no matter what, always. He asks, what are the best herbs or teas for staying calm? Well, I'll give you one simple trick to help you stay calm when you're drinking tea, and that is to put butter in your tea. The fat in the butter will release the caffeine slower and give you more steady, positive energy. So butter in your tea is a pretty awesome way to keep calm. I learned that trick from two Nepalese friends of mine who said that out in the mountains of Nepal, they don't have sugar and they don't have coffee. So what they do is they make a big batch of tea and they put ghee in it. And ghee is clarified butter, and they mash it together, and they actually put salt in it because they don't have sugar. And that's what they drink up in the freezing cold mountains in Nepal, out in the regions outside of the city. They drink that butter tea to help them stay warm and give them good energy. And I've been putting butter in my tea lately, and I love it. Octavio asks, how many posts had you published before you started noticing a steady stream of visitors on B&D? I started noticing a steady stream of visitors at about the 4-month mark, And that's going to be about 35 or 40 articles. That's when I started noticing that people were coming and leaving comments and saying, hey, I love the blog. Can't wait for the next article. So 4 months for me were about 40 articles. And 40 seems like a lot, but 40 is absolutely nothing. It's just absolutely nothing. He also asked, do you believe some people might be more inclined to feel better eating vegetables as you do eating meat? No, I don't, because all people in the world have the exact same digestive system. And people are so out of tune with their own bodies, they don't understand how bad they feel until they feel good. So if you grow up always eating vegetables, you have absolutely no idea what you can feel like if you don't eat vegetables because you always ate them. So it's outside of the realm of your possibility. It's outside of your thinking. So people say that they feel great eating vegetables, not knowing what it feels like to not eat vegetables. These people say they feel great eating vegetables and they have this big protruding swollen belly and they fart all the time. They say, yeah, I feel great eating vegetables. But you can look at their body and see that that's simply not true. So all people have the exact same digestive tract. We cannot digest vegetables very well. Look in the toilet for proof. We digest meat better than we digest anything else. So it's as simple as that. People don't pay attention to their own bodies. They have absolutely no idea how bad they feel because they've never felt anything but bad. So they say they feel good when in reality, they have no idea. Levi asks, in the future of B&D podcasts, I'd love to see some further discussion on online plus offline privacy. I remember an article some time ago that had some decent tips. I'm a huge privacy geek who takes this stuff to an extreme level, but I'd like normal guys to have some tips that would help them possibly be more free in 10 years from now. Nobody knows how the surveillance will affect us. I'm imagining a China social score system. Okay, I'm very interested in privacy as well. You might notice that I am not filming these podcasts because privacy is starting to become a big concern because our privacy is being taken away from us because there are cameras everywhere. Even our phones are watching us, our computers are watching us, our TVs are watching us. All of our smart appliances are actually spy devices. They all have cameras and they all have recording devices in them. So we have to be very careful about the smart devices we buy. Now, for one, I cover the camera on my laptop so that it cannot watch me. I put a piece of tape over it. If you're smart, you'd cover up the camera hole on your phone as well. But of course, many of us actually use that to take pictures. So that's a double-edged sword. Our phones are eavesdropping devices on us. And if you've ever noticed that you might say you need a new pair of jeans, and then you pull up your phone and you see some advertising for new jeans. That's what it's being used for, is that it's giving us better advertising. If you might have noticed that YouTube, for example, can read your mind. When you say you say to your friend you want to find a good lobster recipe, and you go to YouTube and you type L, and lobster recipe just appears. So these things our privacy is being eradicated day by day. So this is a very big issue that we have to discuss and look into further. And of course, the best thing you could do is live out in the woods. But even with satellite imagery, privacy is going away. And what's happening in China is the social crediting system is that if you don't follow the government lead, if you don't follow the government plan, you can be ostracized from your business, you can be ostracized from your family, you can be ostracized from credit, from loans, from banks. So what's going on in China looks like it's going to be a prototype for what's going to happen in the rest of the world. So we have to look at the social crediting system in China, which is a very evil system because it routes out all the people who are not on board with the government programming. And we know that the government programming is not usually for the good of the people, but it's for the good of the very few who create the programming. So what's going on in China is very evil. And we have to understand that what's happening in China could very well happen to us in the future if we're not careful. Privacy is a big concern. If you have any privacy tips, please leave a comment for us and let us know. Harry asks, what would happen if I were to watch pornography occasionally, such as once per month? Would this have a negative effect on dopamine and sexual energy? Well, yes and no. No, in the sense that you can do anything you want once per month and nothing bad will happen to you. You could shoot heroin or smoke crack cocaine once a month and nothing bad will happen to you. But the problem is it's going to continue. It's not going to be just once a month. It'll be once a month for the first few months. then you're going to think, okay, well, nothing bad's happening here. Let me go and do it twice a month. Then you're going to do it twice a month and think, okay, yeah, this is fine. This is great. No problem. Let me do it once a week. Then you do it once a week and you think, yeah, there's no problem. This is great, man. Then you're going to start doing it once a day and 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. Next thing you know, you are a full-blown addict again. So as an addict to pornography, you have to give it up completely, because if you start with just once a month, it's going to end up at the exact same place it always was, daily. That's what happens. Drug addicts cannot have the drug at all, ever. So you've got to say no to it, always and forever. Stan asks, what are your views on Jack Donovan and his book, The Way of Men? I haven't read The Way of Men. I understand that Jack Donovan is a big back-to-nature pagan guy, but he's also a homosexual. So I don't personally listen to homosexuals, and that's that. You know, he might be back to nature and all this stuff that's good, but then, you know, he wants to get you back to nature to butt fuck you. So I don't believe that if you're not a homosexual, you shouldn't listen to homosexuals and their views, because homosexuals will always... there's something mentally off about them. There's always something mentally off about them. There's something narcissistic about them. And their tips for you, what do you think is going to happen if you listen to tips from a homosexual? What do you think is going to happen to you? What path do you think that's going to lead you down? It's going to lead you to butt fucking each other in the forest, eventually. He goes on to ask, what are your views on Dr. Sean Baker? He's a big proponent of the carnivore diet. His testosterone tested at 227, but he's 6'5", 240 pounds of solid muscle. You know, I'm not surprised in the slightest bit that Sean Baker's testosterone is low. Even though he eats a good diet, he's got muscle on him. He's got a good attitude about it. It doesn't surprise me at all, because our environment, we have to understand that it's our environment that is giving us low testosterone. It's not necessarily the things we do. It's the things that are done to us without our consent. The chemicals in our deodorant, the chemicals in the water, the chemicals in the air. These are the things that are causing havoc on our hormonal system. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that even somebody big and muscular like Sean Baker has low testosterone, because it's not up to us. Our environment is polluted. And if we want to reverse this trend, of course, we've got to do everything right. Sleep and diet and exercise. But if that doesn't work, we have to even take it a step further and take testosterone or testosterone boosters. We have to take matters into our own hands, because if we leave it into the hands of the other people, we're going to be left with low testosterone, and testosterone levels are shrinking, declining worldwide. No matter what we do, they're declining for the simple reason our world is polluted. Steve asks, what is it like for someone who is always on the move to new cities? Well, it's fun for the first month. Your first month in a new city is a lot of great adventure, a lot of fun. And then after 1 month, you settle into a routine. It's just like living anywhere. So for the first month, you're super happy to go check out this new city and that new city and check out this museum or check out that whatever. And you want to check out the new food and eat that food and find all the cool restaurants and coffee shops. And then after a month, you figure out what you like and you fall into a routine. So it's very much like living in the city that you live in now, except for that first month, you've got first month excitement. So that's what it's like. It's fun for a month, and then it's just absolutely normal. Alex asks, should blog articles that were written over 3 years ago and don't get any traffic be deleted from your blog? Absolutely. 3 years is more than enough time to see which articles work and which articles don't work. And if they're getting no traffic and no comment, kill them, because they're not doing you any favors. Dr. Ron asks, what is your opinion of a single man going to an Asian massage parlor and getting a happy ending? How does this fit into your conversations about masturbation versus sex with a woman? Is the former or latter in your view? Okay, I personally don't have any opinions of a single man going to an Asian massage parlor and getting a happy ending, because I've never thought about this. I don't sit around thinking about other men who go to Asian massage parlors. Is this sex or is this masturbation? You know, it's kind of a bit of both. It's kind of a bit of both, and it's really as simple as that. If you're doing this every day, it's probably going to give you the same effects as masturbation. But if you do this every once in a while, I don't see a problem with it. I don't personally care about it. Jack Freeman asks, do you think podcasts are more popular than reading blogs? I think they might be on par with reading blogs, definitely, especially the podcasts that are filmed. Yeah, the podcasts that are filmed are definitely more popular than reading blogs, because people today have a harder time reading or paying attention to something, and they want to watch it, they want to hear it. And also, while they watch it and they hear it, they want to scroll and look at other things to get more dopamine hits. So at the moment, yeah, video podcasts are definitely more popular than reading blogs. In the long term, this is a question like, what's more popular, listening to the radio or reading books? Well, they're both popular for different audiences at different times of the day. So I read, I watch, and I listen at different times of the day. And a lot of other people do as well. Some people will go read, then they'll go listen to podcasts, and they'll go watch a video. So what's more popular, TV, radio, or books? They're all very popular, but they're different. And sometimes they market to different people, or sometimes you do them at different times of the day. So they're all popular. They can all bring you a nice income if you're a podcaster or a blogger. It's just a matter of doing good content. If you have good content, you're going to be popular. If you have bad content, you're not going to be popular. Gal Haddad asked, what are your thoughts on mouthwash and toothpaste? I read that they kill bad bacteria along with good bacteria, affecting the production of nitric oxide in our body, and blood flow decreases as a result. Is this a reason to stop using them? Do you have a better alternative? Okay, this is what I mean by saying our world is polluted. We're using these industrial petrochemicals to clean our mouths. And what's going on with this is it's having effects on us that we don't understand. We should be using natural products to clean our bodies. And you can use baking soda to clean your mouth, and you can use coconut oil to rinse out your mouth. So those are two very simple and effective natural ways that you can clean your mouth without using chemicals. Romeo says, in America, most folks are living paycheck to paycheck in order to finance an external facade driven by materialism. What does this behavior mean for the economy? What does this behavior mean for individuals consumed by it? Has social media catalyzed this? No, I don't believe social media has catalyzed it in the sense that this need to live paycheck to paycheck in order to finance the external facade has existed before social media. People were going into debt so that they could live a life that they can't afford long before social media. And in fact, this credit and debt system is our first system of virtual reality, because people want to live like they're rich, but they don't want to work like they're rich. So to live like they're rich, they take loans. Then they live like they're rich for a few months until those first bills come in, and they're saddled with debt. And they realize what they've done if they're smart. So what does this behavior mean? It means that people are greedy. People are greedy, and they don't have value of ownership anymore. They want things, but they don't want to work to own the things. In the past, the American spirit was to work real hard and make the money to buy the things, and then they had pride of ownership. Today, nobody has pride of ownership. They just want the things without doing the work. This is greed, nothing but greed. And the greedier you are, the more you're going to be enslaved by it. In the last episode, we said that you're not going to be punished for your sins. You're going to be punished by your sins. If you are greedy in this life, you're going to be punished for it by being saddled and riddled with debt. You're going to have debt payments until you die because of your greed. So if you want to be free in this world, you have to let go of greed. You have to be detached from want. Remember at the beginning we talked about happiness and how you can find bliss by being detached. You can find bliss by being attached from the want for things. When you stop wanting things, you can live in a state of bliss because you're never going to be saddled with debt. You're never going to get the negative consequences that come from your lust for new things that you cannot afford. Jason asks, what does your morning daily routine consist of? Okay, I wake up, visit the restroom, I get a glass of water, and then I immediately go stretch. I stretch every single morning without fail. I do several different morning exercises aimed to loosen up the body. And in particular, in the morning, I do what is called sun salutations or sun worship, which is a yoga routine that for me, I feel is very, very good for loosening up the body and getting the body ready for the day. So every morning I do sun salutations and a few other exercises. Then I'll typically go and get a steak for breakfast, and then I'll head out, get to the coffee shop, and get to work. Sebas asks, hi Vic, I work from home, but some days I get really bored. What can I do? Well, the best thing you can do if you're getting bored is to leave the home. Because as humans, we really like background noise. And what we don't get at home is background noise. And it took me several years to learn this. I work from home for so many years. I realized that it's the background noise that you need. It's the chatter of people that you need. So these days I work from a coffee shop. I don't work from home anymore. And I'm getting some of the best work done in my life just by getting out and getting to the coffee shop and hearing the chatter of the people. It gives me energy in a way that working from home doesn't, because it's too quiet at home. When you want to work, you don't want it so doggone quiet. So if you're feeling bored, get out of the house. Simple as that. DC Russ asks, what are your biggest takeaways from lost texts such as the Gospel of Thomas? What is your understanding of what spiritual leaders like Jesus were actually trying to teach? Wow, these are great questions, and there's really a lot to unpack here. What do you say we cover this topic at the beginning of the next episode of the Bold and Determined podcast? We'll find out what spiritual leaders like Jesus were actually trying to teach. In the meantime, friends, if you enjoyed this episode of the Bold and Determined podcast, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review, because this helps other people to find this very podcast and get some answers in their own lives. Thank you very much for listening to the Bold and Determined podcast. On the next episode, friends, don't forget, we're going to start our 30 days of discipline. We're going to start our 30-day challenge. The 30-day challenge is going to be very, very relevant to what we discussed today on the B&D podcast. So do not miss the next episode. And until then, friends, have a nice day.